What is up, everybody? I'm NoLexGiven, back with some more Hearthstone Battlegrounds, and today our anomaly is Anomalous Evidence. We're going to take a look at a game with Lord Jaraximps here with post-commentary, and I'm calling this one You Face Jaraximps, because we go pretty imp crazy with this one, using Lord Jaraximps' Blood Fury to make some really large impulsive tricksters. And this, I think, is a really fun one. I did not do live commentary for it at the time, but it went well enough that I figured I would still take a look at it here, even though it is a really wacky anomaly. They renamed this one. I forget what it used to be called, but now it's called Anomalous something, because it is otherwise a quest reward, which are now all called Anomalous X, where X is what the name of the quest reward was, at least in some capacity. So there's going to be a lot of random stuff going off in this one, and I'll try to talk about most of my decisions as much as I can. Like here, I'm taking the one that is the most stats. Okay, pretty straightforward. But there are, I think that this anomaly specifically, and a few others, but really this one, I think, lends itself the most to live commentary because it's so wacky. But also it's really hard to do live commentary for this anomaly because there is so much else going on to pay attention to. That I thought was really interesting. My only character had stealth, so my opponent actually attacked first with their 6/6 but couldn't attack, so then I attacked with my character and then their second card attacked. Didn't really wind up doing anything, but just thought it was interesting. I'm basically going to take Yogg-tastic Tasties whenever I see it. Spinning the wheel of Yogg-Saron can be really, really powerful and open up some really fun stuff. I pick up Tad here. Could have just cycled through Tad and held on to my 2/8 elemental. Yeah, it's potentially a little bit of a mistake. Like I said, there is a lot going on in all of this, and I'm sure there will be more mistakes that happen before the end of this one, but we're going to do as much as we can and have as much fun with it as we possibly can. We lose this one to the smoking gun. Have not yet used my hero power. Might want to, especially as I start to find some demons, and the Wheel of Yogg-Saron gives me Mystery Box. So now that Mind Muck is golden, which is really great, and I can also pick up Snicker Snacks this turn to trigger a friendly minion's battle cry an additional time. So I'm going to go for that, for an additional trigger off of the golden Mind Muck, and then I want to pick up all of these demons here. I want Soul Rewinder if I'm going to play demons. I feel like that's good with the hero power in general. Then I pick up the Mind Muck, and then I actually am just going to sell out of this Mercules that I picked up off of the Tad. So that way I can roll before playing Mind Muck, so that way I can digest something reasonably better here. And then I'll get to digest something again at the end of turn, and that lands onto the Mind Muck itself. Probably the least relevant thing for that to land on, but it's still fine. It gives me a big demon for this impulsive trickster to land on, and is enough that I almost grab a win there, but ultimately find the tie. I'm going to be totally okay with that. This turn's kind of a crazy one. I mean, Red Hand is obviously better than the Divine at this stage of the game, so that's an easy pickup, but I decide to level up and then roll, hoping that I would then be able to find something sweet to Red Hand onto, and I am. I'm able to find another impulsive trickster. I'm just debating here selling out of my Soul Rewinder because I don't have a Wrathweaver, just so that way I can start using my hero power. I think that the more I use Blood Fury on my imps, the better it's going to be for me, because that is a good thing to be able to put it on. But ultimately, I decide not to go that route. I am just going to hang on to the Soul Rewinder for another turn here. Does mean I'm kind of going to get clobbered in this fight, unfortunately, as I have that second imp in my hand, but giving that second imp +12/+12 seems like a really big power spike, and I'm about to finally start to turn this game around in my favor. Plus, I get to pick up more Yogg-tastic Tasties for future turns, plus a Leeching Fellhound. And I also kind of like the Slime, the Oozling Gladiator here, being able to give both of my Impulsive Tricksters Taunt and +1/+1, which is synergistic with the card. Seems great. So I picked that up. I roll and then realize it's not going to get too much better than Seaborn Summoner. So I decide to pick that up and then use my final coin after finding another demon in the shop to Blood Fury my lesser Impulsive Trickster and make both of those pretty reasonable. 15, 16, 10, or 11, 10. Pretty good stats on both of those. My other characters, not so much, other than my Mind Muck at 10-6. Nothing else is really great at taking the health from those Impulsive Tricksters. But still, we're starting to get somewhere as we build up those Impulsive Tricksters for the rest of this fight. The first Trickster lands on Oozling Gladiator, and the second Trickster also lands on Oozling Gladiator, so definitely not the best. I might have even been better off selling out of that Oozling Gladiator just so that way that couldn't happen. But I don't know what the chances of that were. That was pretty unlucky. We'll take 8 damage because of that. And I'm not sure, I guess what I mean to say is I'm not sure we would have been that much better off had something different happened anyways. Get 2 random Dark Moon prizes here, nothing super exciting, and then I also get more Snicker Snacks, which I can use to trigger the Mind Muck again. Could have also just gone for a flat 8 health on one of these Impulsive Tricksters, but I felt like this was fine. Then I actually find a second Mind Muck, so now I can pick that up, and then I'll have 2 Mind Mucks that activate at the end of turn. I realize that I do have to get rid of the Oozling Gladiator, so I do ultimately catch that. And then I see that I've got access to Fellemental here, and that's a pretty sweet pickup. So I wind up grabbing that, and I use I basically just run out of time here, and then I throw more bananas on there. I try to use the gotcha gift, but I just don't have enough time to do it. One thing that is kind of cool there, in the order that I placed my Battlecry cards, I pumped up the shop, and then I ate something additionally with Mind Muck, so that was pretty sweet. And it's actually going to be enough that I get a pretty dominating win here. 100% to win, get to hit my opponent for 11, over half their life total, so that feels good. It would have been half my life total as well, but it feels good, and it's good enough to put me into the top 4, despite the fact that I'm only playing 5 characters on the board, which also means I've got plenty of room to grow from here. I do pick up some more Yogg-tastic Tasties. I imagine I'm probably going to pick up this Imposing guy. Actually find myself with a Wrathweaver suddenly on turn 8, but seems good enough. And then I actually decide with 10 gold and it costing 10 to level up, I'm just going to level up this turn. And then I will pick up the whatever this thing is called next turn. Let's jump ahead briefly into this combat against the undefeated lobby leader. So this could be scary. Let's see how big they are. They've got a reborn Belcher. That is quite spooky. How are my imps going to do? Well, one of them does pretty good work before taking out the second Belcher, but my opponent now has 2 venomous cards, so they are going to be able to finish me off. And I will take 11 damage, half of my life total, like I said. So that's going to put me down to 11 out of the top 4. But we do get to spin this wheel here, and that's going to be a munch. We're going to eat this tavern and refresh it, this tavern that we locked onto. Then I get a Kidnap Sack or Divine Armor. Both of those are reasonable, but Kidnap Sack with all of these Fellemental shenanigans seem great. There's also a third Impulsive Trickster in the shop, so that could be sweet. Awkwardly, you can't use Kidnap Sack to return the Mind Muck to your hand. And you also don't get it right away, so that kind of threw me off because I would have loved to have used it first, bounced the Cellemental, and then purchased the Impulsive Trickster. And I think I mentioned this at the start of the video as well, but was just experiencing a lot of lag in this game. And this is one of the turns where I get hit with lag the hardest. You can see I'm like trying to play cards, unable to do so, unable to even field all of my stuff, and then unable to activate my hero power again. So kind of an unfortunate turn. However, my opponent isn't going to be able to punish me too bad here, despite the fact that I am really, really dangerously playing down here. I get a really nice hit with a trade into that, and then my Impulsive Trickster gets to go off and leave me with 2 reasonably sized characters, and I also deal with their poisonous card. So I do lose this fight. I take 6, again, half my life total now down to 5, and on the verge of being destroyed, but we can maybe still turn this thing around. One of the cool things about Kidnap Sack as well is you get to play it once on your own turn, and then you get it again the next turn, which I think is a really cool thing. Now at this point, we are up against the lobby leader, a huge Rafam there. I want to buy as much scam as I possibly can. I want to play as strong of a board as I possibly can. I'm going to pick up this Reef Explorer just because it's cheap, I suppose. I'm not sure exactly what I was going for there. To be honest, I just don't remember. But I do know that I need to add a little bit more power to this board still. So I think we are going to see me put in the Manaroth, the Coldest, the Titus, and just sell out of some of these other things that I'm currently working with. Was trying to get the Bran before I kidnapped the Felemental. And then the other thing that I'm kind of looking to do here is play less demons, because the less demons that I play, the more likely it is that the Cultist will resummon something that's really relevant that I care about. And this is the first combat where I really get to make use of a kind of cool synergy, which is Manaroth plus the Impulsive Trickster. Impulsive Trickster gives Manaroth a bunch of additional health, so that way when Manaroth attacks and kills something, then it's going to survive and be able to use its ability that you don't always get to use on Manaroth. So this was pretty sweet, allowed me to defeat the lobby leader, hit them for 14, get myself into the top 5 here. Now, we are going to spin the wheel. That gives me Pyro buff, which could have killed me. This was a pretty insane moment. I'm pretty sure that Pyro buff can kill you. I don't really know how it works though. So kind of curious about that. Here we've got the option to take Parasol or Snicker Snacks. Parasol is just a little bit too risky at this point. I don't want to give my Imp Taunt and put it in the last position, because that could be really dangerous. Everything is hinging on this Imp, so I am just going to take the Snicker Snacks here. I'm going to throw as many more stats as I possibly can onto this Imp. I realized that I took a damage there for my Wrathweaver, and I want to make sure that I don't do that again, so I sell out of the Wrathweaver, play Murazan, that gives me Caligos. I'd like to buy something, but I'm out of time. So there we go. I discover something off the Reef with Riffer, and then I also pump up my shop just slightly with Felemental. And here we get to see the Impulsive Trickster do a decent amount of work with Titus, but also be a little bit awkward because the Imp pumps up my Cultist. It then makes it more difficult for Titus to trigger on the Cultist, because the Cultist might not die immediately. So there's definitely a lot of randomness in this game in general. We're spinning the wheel a bunch of times, but also just in this comp. So yeah, definitely a little bit awkward, but we're having fun with it too here. And I am just going to try to pump up this Imp as much as I possibly can. I feel like that might include using the Legion Overseer to get some additional stats onto that, and then I will pick up Titus here. I'm going to sell out of some of my demons, but looks like I will keep tabs on Legion Overseer and use my hero power one more time before just throwing another Titus in. It doesn't actually... Wait, no, I'm sorry. Titus actually does do something to play an additional Titus. So that is good, and then I throw Leroy in there, so I've got a little bit of scam. I move Manaroth because in like a crazy world, I don't want Felemental to be what I Cultist resummon. That could be pretty disastrous for me. Felemental definitely the next thing to go. Looks like Leroy is going to take care of my Imp though, so that is easy enough. We do unfortunately get a trigger onto the Cultist. We also get a trigger onto Leroy, which is awkward, but we do get a trigger onto Manaroth, which should be able to attack into something and stick around. or trade with my opponent's best card. Both of those are fine scenarios, really, ultimately, and this combat is fine. We've got the cultist here. We actually do get to summon a bunch of imps, only 2. We'll try to, maybe I'll make this the thumbnail. Yeah, that's gonna be the thumbnail. Okay, so you guys don't know if I'm gonna summon more imps or not. I feel like I'm kind of giving it away here as well. But what can you do? We will pick up a Elemental out of the box there, and then I'll grab some more Snicker Snacks, and unfortunately I do feel like I kind of have to sell through the Elemental at this point, so the Snicker Snacks aren't really going to do that much for me, nor is this young Murk-Eye, but it's a thought that counts. I think I might briefly grab this Warp Wing before realizing that it's actually not really what I want to do. Because if I have this Warp Wing stick around, then it's just a character that my stuff can land onto. Mecha Jaraximps, by the way, is really, really cool with the cultist. I am going to explore that more in a future video. I don't get this Leroy in, but it should be okay. We've got a really, really powerful combo here with the Titus and the Imps that we can maybe battle through all of my opponent's crazy poisonous stuff. It's gonna be tight. It's gonna be tight. My opponent has 1 more poisonous left, and we have some more imps, and the imps have taunt, so that actually does wind up being just enough, and we win a combat with Leroy left as my only remaining character. But I don't know. I think I've said mostly everything that I have to say. Soul Pact is kind of cool. Tiny Henchman, though, just gives free stats to the imps, so that's the easiest one. That's the one that I click. Could pick up an Upbeat Duo here. There's not too many more combats left in the game, though, but I do ultimately decide to pick that up, and then I'm really just looking for like one final piece of scam to add to the board here. Or I'm just looking to use my hero power one more time. We do have a Relentless Murghol. That's probably worth it. And I think I lock onto it before unlocking it. Or it looks like I might not even unlock, or I might not even lock it up in the first place. And then the other thing that I'm doing here that I wanted to talk about is I am trying to put things before my imp so that way they will die and not get the impulsive trickster buff on them, but we'll see how that goes. My opponent gets a Cobra from their secret. That's going to be pretty good. And then here are my imp triggers. A few on the cultist, a few on the Manaroth, and 1 on Titus. But there you can see Titus in action, getting all of that juicy attack from the copy elemental and firing it back at my opponent. So that is a really, really cool combo there that you're not going to be able to put together that often, but when you can, it seems pretty sweet. And this is the final turn of the game, looks to be the final combat of the game, so I am going to pick up just the Smoking Gun here for a little bit more flat stats across the board. Do have the Upbeat Duo ready to go off here, but I feel like I'm not really going to be super likely to use it at this point. Probably could have just picked up that Relentless Murghol, but I find another Manaroth that also seems really good. I will probably sell out and just pick up the Manaroth, and then ultimately decide to cut the Upbeat Duo for the Manaroth on this final turn of the game. Kind of a crazy shop too. I can triple Leroy, triple Manaroth. Part of the reason I was rolling so heavily and not deliberately picking up just random scam, I would love to have found another cultist. I think that that was what this comp was really missing, was just a second cultist rather than more scam. But this scam's going to do me pretty well here. My opponent also has a ton of scam, but we can see in this one, none of the trickster triggers land onto the cultist. But Baron is going to be able to survive, or Titus rather, is going to be able to survive. So here I get to create 3 imps, all of which get a triple trigger when they go off. Actually a sextuple trigger because imps, golden imps trigger twice anyways. So a ton of stats by the end of this one. This would have been the other choice for the opening thumbnail, but that would have spoiled a little bit too much. That's going to be it for me today, guys. Thank you very much for watching. Just wanted to show off this game real quick because I thought it was a sweet one, even though I did not record live commentary for it. But thank you guys very much for watching. That's going to be it for me. I'm No Lex Given. Peace.